恭请大德僧听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss, and then birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputoche. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, welcome back. This is class 72 as we explore the Dharma using the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra as our foundation. Before we get into today's class, let's recite 10 Medicine Master Buddha's name 7 times. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life. Medicine Master Buddha 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 Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life. Medicine Master Buddha, Medicine Master does come one. 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 All right, so today it's going to be an interesting class because, let me see, click OK. Because I have 2 stories for everyone and it involves dragons. Yes. So today's class is more about stories than than anything else. But we'll learn the Dharma through stories. The Buddha, I think, was the best speaker in the world, kind of like the most eloquent, and he always explained the Dharma through stories. He always had a story for every occasion, and his stories weren't made up stories. The Buddha stories were always based on his past experiences. Um, we have recorded actually, we have a record of about 530, I think it's 536 stories of the Buddha, of his past lives, not just other people, but his own past lives. There's 536 stories. And you can find it. It's it's called the Jataka. It's part of the Tripitaka, or the Buddhist canon. So yeah, very, very interesting stories, and we'll find out what they are. So where we are this week, we are still in the realm of animals, because we are talking about dragons. And if you look at your screen, there's a refresher right in the middle of a rather nice graphical representation of our Buddhist cosmos. You will see the word Nagas just below human beings and asuras. Excuse me. Excuse me. So that's where we are right now. We're talking about Nagas, the animal realm. And why we going through all this is to learn about cause and effect, learn about what we should do and what we really shouldn't do. And also, I have something about transference from, what was it? Yeah, Ron's question 2 weeks ago on transference. I have something about transference that towards the end of the class, I'll bring it up. Does anyone have any questions? Patrick, anything related to the sutra or related to the Dharma? If you do and you don't want to speak up, you can type it into the chat box. All right. Okay. Or just interrupt me, or wait for a pause and unmute your mic. All right. So back to Nagas. Okay. So this is from Shufu. This is Shufu giving a talk at CDTB. So Shufu says not only are there a lot of snakes at CDTB, and we'll come to why Shufu is speaking about snakes at CDTB in a short while. He says, but there are a lot of dragons as well. Being in a place with a mixture of snakes and dragons, usually people are happy to see dragons but frightened to see snakes. However, in fact, the dragons are transformed from the snakes, and the snakes are transformed from the dragons. People become delighted or frightened at the sight of such changes. One moment they are happy, the next they are startled. That's how people are influenced by external states. So this is a teaser for our story that's coming up. It's an encounter of, okay, you're gonna find out. All right. So next slide, Shufu says, if you're not affected by these states, you will be able to subdue the dragons and the tigers. The dragons will coil up and the tigers will crouch down. Because you are moved by these states, you cannot distinguish between good and bad. Although seeing the same thing, you don't run away when you see a dragon, but flee upon the sight of a snake. See, it is just a change of form and illusion, yet you believe it is real. It is said, all forms are illusory and false. Seeing all forms as not forms, one sees the Tathagata. All right, so what Shufu says next is very interesting. She says, let me make it clear to you. What is a dragon? It is the mind of joy and giving. What is a snake? It is the mind of anger and hatred. If you harbor joy and giving, there are devas, dragons, and the rest of the eightfold division, Dharma protectors. If you harbor anger and hatred, then there are demons, ghosts, goblins, Li Mei, and Wang Liang are a category of ghosts coming to disturb you. Therefore, we should harbor joy and giving and eliminate anger and hatred. So what Shufu does here is very interesting. He's turning the focus inward. He says rather than getting caught up in things that we fear and or are attracted to or we like, for example, like dragons fascinate a lot of people. He says look inside. And inside the dragon is just because it attracts, it fascinates you, you want to see it, then he transforms that into the mind of joy and giving. And the snake that people are afraid of represents the mind of anger and hatred. All right. Okay. Ron has a question. It says, are alligators and crocodiles considered a form of dragon? I do not know, Ron. But I think based on the stories and the things that I've read about this, most of the spirits of the Eightfold Division, the Dharma Guardians, Dharma Spirit Guardians of the Eightfold Pantheon or Division, most of them, if they want to, they can transform into anything they want. And I guess that would include alligators or crocodiles. Yeah. Okay, so Shufu continues saying, if so, the dragons will do their job as dragons, and the snakes will do their job as snakes. They will each man their, They will each man their proper posts and perform their proper duties without affecting you. Why do I say so? The Buddha said a long time ago, he who wishes to understand all Buddhas of the three periods of time should contemplate the nature of the Dharma realm. The Tathagata is made from the mind alone. Dragons are made from your mind, as snakes are also made from your mind. All things are created from the mind alone. What does that mean? Basically, if if in your mind you have anger, and then that leads to anger, and we shall see in the next slide. Okay, maybe I just give an example from the Sutta about what it means. All things are created from the mind alone, because it's your thoughts, your speech, your action that originate from your mind that leads to the karma that you create. So the karma you create will create the conditions for your future existence. All right, so it starts from the mind. So in this sutta, from the Samyutta Nikaya number 348, there's a monk asking the Buddha. He says, Venerable Sir, what is the cause and reason why someone born here with the breakup of the body after death is reborn in the company of Nagas? Nagas means dragons. So the Buddha explains, says, here Bhikkhu, someone acts ambivalently in body, speech, and mind. He has heard egg-born Nagas are long-lived. Okay, so the Buddha uses egg-born dragons born from eggs, but the actual sutta, this part is repeated 4 times for the 4 different ways dragons are born. That means egg-born, moisture-born, womb-born, and spontaneously born dragons. So this covers all the dragons. So it says, someone, carelessly or in two minds. We looked at what ambivalently means last week. In two minds, meaning sometimes you have random thoughts, or you have not just random thoughts, but sustained random thoughts. You go on a daydreaming spree, and someone may have heard stories about dragons, and they start thinking, oh, maybe being a dragon is not so bad. They can do so many wonderful things. They have, they can, they are dragon kings who are very powerful, and so on. And then at another time, they might think they want to be something else, or they might forget. So it's in two minds. You're not focused on it, but the thoughts are there nevertheless. So what does he think? He's saying, oh, Nagas are long-lived, beautiful, and abound in happiness. He thinks, oh, with the breakup of the body after death, may I be reborn in the company of Nagas. Then with the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in the company of dragons. So that's how the Buddha explains, just from the thoughts alone, you can create your future birth shaped by your previous thoughts. Okay, now we come to the story. Actually, it's told as a story, but it's an actual encounter. Excuse me, I just need to clear my throat. Okay, so this happened in 1982, June 20th at CDTB, which was a Sunday. And I have actually met, there are people who at CDTB right now who were actually around, and they remember this story, because this incident, because they were there to witness it themselves. Okay, so I've heard this story before. After reading this story, and then after being at sea, and then hearing it from someone who was actually there. So at Sunday, on that day, for full assembly, was holding a Dhamma celebration at I'm just going to read, at the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Everyone was circumambulating the Buddha hall, reciting Namo Amitabha Buddha. As people were returning to the hall, they suddenly noticed a mottled green snake lying to the side of the front door. The snake was 3 or 4 feet long and very thin. Upon seeing it, some of the people in the assembly froze in fear, unable to take a step forward. All right. The monk who was the prefect at that time suggested that the snake be removed, but the rebel master smiled and said, "It is not necessary. All living beings have the Buddha nature. This snake has come to draw near the triple jewel and listen to the Dharma, so it should not be driven away." Strangely enough, this was no ordinary snake. It stretched out on the ground, and although there were nearly 100 people coming and going on all sides, it didn't show the slightest sign of fear. Rather, it was tame and docile. Okay. The rebel master ascended to the Dharma seat and said, "Tell it to come in and listen to the Dharma." The snake immediately responded by slithering into the hall from the front door without frightening anyone. So if you've ever been to CDTB and the Buddha hall, we have 2 entrances if you are facing the Buddhas. And the entrance on the left is where the men come in, and then the entrance on the right is where the women come in. And also there are entrances at the back too, but this probably refers to the entrance in front. Then the snake slithered from the left side of the hall to the right side, as if circumambulating the Buddha once. Finally, it settled down in front of the Dharma seat, as if kneeling before the Buddhas with quiet dignity in order to listen attentively to the Dharma. In response to the snake's appearance, the master spoke as follows. So Shufu, I guess, tailored that day's Dhamma talk to the snake as well as to the people in the audience. Okay, Shufu said, "All living beings have the Buddha nature and can become Buddhas. This is what the Buddha personally tells us. But because we have discursive thoughts and attachments, we cannot certify to the Buddha's wisdom and virtue. In view of the fact that all living beings have the Buddha nature, we should refrain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and taking intoxicants. And we should uphold the 5 precepts. If we kill living beings, it's the same as killing the Buddhas of the 10 directions." Okay, so that's why harming any living being is such a big no-no in the Dharma, because all living beings have the Buddha nature, and in the Lotus Sutra it says that we'll all become Buddhas one day. And it's only through our ignorance that we fail to see the potential of living beings. So, and I've used this example before, and I think this is the right time to repeat. So I'm going to share it again. What does it mean to see the Buddha nature in all living beings? Okay. We all, some of us, know the story about how the Buddha became the Buddha. Before he was the Buddha, but after he left the home life, after he left the home life and he wasn't a prince anymore, and he practiced 6 years of really austere practices, all the ways you can think of for someone without the Dharma trying to find liberation from birth and death. He did it all in the 6 years. And one of the things that he did was to starve himself, thinking that the way through enlightenment was through the body. So he only ate 1 sesame seed a day, and the Buddha was so thin and so malnourished that they describe the Buddha as his skin being to the point of looking very black. And if you look at his stomach, you could see his spine. That it was just skin and bones. Yeah. And at a certain point after the 6 years, the Buddha realized that this is not the way, because if I continue in this way, I would die and I would still not have accomplished my goal. And you can't do it any more. No one. I've taken it to the extreme. There can't be any more than this. So this is not the way. The Buddha realized that. So what the Buddha did is he went to bathe in the river, and he came out. And I think before that he received an offering of milk porridge, and then he also got a seed made from freshly cut sweetgrass, and that's how he became the Buddha. That was the beginnings of that. So imagine looking at someone, okay, that is so thin they look inhuman. Their eyes will be bulging, and the face looks more like a skull, a skeleton. The body looks more like a skeleton. The face looks more like a skull than a human face. The body is dark, and the hair, after 6 years worth of practice, the hair will be matted and probably have twigs and dirt and all kinds of things in it. And you see this person crawling out from the river. The Buddha was so weak at that point that he couldn't come up by himself. And I think a deva, one of the heavenly beings, bent a tree, branched down to help the Buddha come up from the river. So if you didn't know at that time, okay, and you see someone like this crawling up from the river, I think it would be fair to say that most people would not have a very positive attitude looking at what's going on. They will probably recoil in disgust, or they would like, like, what's going on? Why is that person so weird? Is he a man, or is he a demon or ghost or something? And you would have a lot of uncomfortable feelings because of your own mind. But if okay, so it's a hypothetical situation where we travel back in time, okay, to the riverbank. But if we already know the Buddha's story, and we know that, this is the prince, and this is how he becomes the Buddha, and you already know what's going to happen, how would that change how you reacted to what you will be seeing? You can take a moment and imagine it for yourself. This is going to be Shakyamuni Buddha, and he's going to sit in that spot for, I think, how many days did he sit under that spot? I don't remember right now. And he's going to meditate, and he's going to defeat Mara, the demons, and he's going to become the Buddha, and he's going to speak the Avatamsaka Sutra right under that tree. Okay, Wenbo says 49 days. I think so. Yeah, probably said 49 days. How would that change how you feel, your behavior, your thoughts? Would you be very respectful? Would you be very, very careful not to make any sound so you won't disturb the future Buddha's concentration? Would you think, maybe this is a good time to make an offering? Is it appropriate? What can I do? What can I do to support? Or at the very least, what can I do not to disturb the Buddha at all, right? So that's what it means. If you can see the Buddha nature in all living beings, you are aware of their potential. And at the very least, you will not hold them back from their potential. You will try not to make them upset. You won't create any afflictions for them, so that at least you don't, at the very least, if you can't help them on the path, you don't delay, you don't do additional things to them to delay their path. And also, do you see the Buddha nature in yourself? How do you see your potential? Okay, so that's one way. So let's get back to the story. Okay. So Shufu says that's why we shouldn't harm any living beings. Okay. All right. So Shufu continues saying, all living beings are manifestations of the Buddhas. However, since a single unenlightened thought produces the three subtle attributes, which are the attribute of karma, manifestation, and the attribute of turning, the more we run, the further off we stray, and so we sink and drown in the sea of suffering, losing sight of the truth forever. Okay, one way to look at the attribute of karma, the attribute of manifestation, and the attribute of turning. In our previous slide, the Buddha explained how someone gets born, one possible way where someone gets reborn as a dragon. So the thoughts that the person has, you can think of that as the karma, and then the manifestation is the rebirth as a dragon, and then the turning is having to live out the life as a dragon. Okay, that's not the official way of explaining what these three attributes are. That's just me trying to put it into context. Okay, one way of understanding that. Okay, so Shufu says this is a very simple principle, but unfortunately, people have overlooked it. Shufu says cultivators of the way should contemplate in this way. All living beings have been my parents in former lives, and they will become Buddhas in the future. Since they have been my past parents, I should find ways to be filial to them, save them, and enable them to leave suffering, attain bliss, and end birth and death. Since they will become Buddhas in the future, I should honor and respect them just as I would the Buddhas in the 10 directions and 3 periods of time. If you always keep this contemplation in mind, we will never be disrespectful, rude, or mean to any living being. So if it's hard for you to imagine the Buddha, for example, imagine someone who is very dear to you. The sutras always mention the Buddhas, teachers, elders, and parents. Elders, it can be grandparents or say an elder in your community. Someone who naturally brings out the best in you. Okay, like you don't want to disappoint you. You would do anything for their happiness, something like that. So Shufu says that all beings have been parents, and the Buddha says this as well. In the sutras, the Buddha says we have been reborn so many times that all living beings have been your parents before. So that's I spoke to someone yesterday about Ulambana and how Venerable Mahamoggallana looked for his mother, and he found his mother as a hungry ghost. And ordinarily for us, if we were to encounter a hungry ghost or say a non-human, a scary non-human looking entity, say a ghost or spirit or something, we would react with fear. Like Shufu says in the beginning, it says when people see a snake, they get scared. But when they see dragons, they get happy because they think dragons are auspicious. Snakes can, venomous, they can bring danger to you. But what if you found out that that scary living being used to be your mother or your father from your past life? Then how would you react? Then things would change. You would no longer be afraid, but you would try to find a way to help them, right? Okay, so this is an example of what Shufu is trying to say. Okay, so Shufu says, if we always keep this contemplation in mind, we will never be disrespectful, rude, or mean to any living being. So this is the conduct of bodhisattvas, where they view all elderly women as their mothers, all younger women as their sisters. That's what it means. But it's not just something nice to talk about. It's something you actually try to put in your heart, in your practice. Okay, Shufu says there are many living beings, such as ghost spirits, immortals, and demons, which we cannot see with our physical eyes. We should always respect these invincible beings and not look down on them. All living beings should be regarded with equal compassion. Okay. That's a question. Could Dharma Master talk about 5 eyes as mentioned that Master disciple realized 5 eyes? Did they mean they realized the Buddha eye also? Okay, Ruchang has a question about the 5 eyes. Maybe let me find a place in the sutra, Ruchang, that if it talks about spiritual penetrations, or when is a good time to introduce it. All right. So maybe not right now, because I'm also not prepared to talk about 5 eyes. I have no idea about 5 eyes. All right. Okay. The story. So Shufu says the snake that appeared as we enter the Buddha hall today is also a living being. Since it appeared in the body of a snake, everyone was apprehensive and failed to recognize it. Some were even scared out of their wits. However, this snake came to draw near the triple jewel and to hear the Dharma and the sutras. Why else would it be so docile, lying motionless by the door? So the conduct of the snake is not like any, regular snake that you would expect to behave. Okay. She says, although it appears to be a relatively small snake, it is able to transform in countless ways. It can disappear, shrink, expand, mount the clouds, means, fly, mount the clouds and ride the mist, and fly freely through space. We just aren't aware of its powers. This snake can also cultivate and attain the way. It belongs to the eightfold division of gods, dragons, and other Dharma protecting spirits mentioned in the Buddhist sutras, in particular the division of Mahoragas. So Shifu identifies what this snake actually is. Okay. A contemplation of on the background of the snake. So this is where it gets interesting. So Shifu says, if you knew the background of the snake, he says it might reveal that it had been a high official in a small kingdom during the Zhou dynasty. Okay, I didn't find out when the Zhou dynasty was. If someone wants to Google it and put it in the chat box. Shiva says, with a treacherous heart, this official plotted to usurp the throne. Hiding a poison-tipped dagger in his sleeve, he went to assassinate the king. However, not only did he fail to seize the throne, he also provoked the anger of the heavens and was blamed by the people. At the time of his death, he felt great wrath and consequently fell and became a snake, a giant python. All right. So there are some notes that I have that I didn't put in the slides. Shufu says there are two kinds of forces that operate in the world, yin and yang. In other words, black and white, good or evil. It says good beings can constantly cultivate blessings and wisdom and can become immortals, sages, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas. Evil beings, however, are also very powerful, yet they engage exclusively in devious intrigues, killing and hurting each other in vengeance, generating a great deal of hatred. So two sides to practice. You can walk the, it's like Star Wars. There's the dark side and the light side. So there's the yin and yang. She says, open your eyes and look around. You'll find the world is filled with poisonous snakes and dragons. Although they aren't visible to our ordinary eyes, they actually fill up the land. These poisonous snakes are the greed, anger, and stupidity in people's minds, which have accumulated and taken shape and caused illness everywhere. These poisonous snakes cause all the natural and man-made calamities, zombies, demons, ghosts, goblins, epidemics, and strange and incurable diseases in the world. Evil dragons and pestilential demons emit poisonous vapors which confuse people's minds. There are also nightmare ghosts and wangliang ghosts who steal people's essence and energy, frightening them and causing them to go insane. Nowadays, ghosts and goblins and demons cause mischief and cause people to develop, Shifu says, all forms of mental disorders like schizophrenia, insanity, phobias, and a lot of other incurable diseases and mental illnesses. Shifu says modern psychology and medical science have no understanding of the underlying causes and so cannot treat the victims of such diseases in a proper manner. Shiva says the Dharma alone provides the ultimate medicine, the special formula for resolving difficulties and averting desires. Okay, coming back to the story. Shiva says, as for the snake, it was driven by hatred and cultivated energetically until it became a spirit. Okay, Zhou dynasty is 1050, the year 1050 to 221 BCE. Okay, go translate that for yourselves. So the snake became a cultivator and it became a spirit. And then Shiva says, when it developed the ability to penetrate the heavens and earth, it took delight in troubling multitudes of people. So despite the practice, the snake still had its old habits. There are many cases similar to this snake. We hope it will soon repent and will never harm people again. And Shiva says, by the Song dynasty, which is, I guess, 960 to 1279 AD, and that should be, 1,000 years after the Zhou dynasty. Shiva says the snake had turned into a venomous dragon that dwelt in a large river and stirred up violent storms which killed countless fishermen and ferry passengers and caused people to live in great fear and anxiety. Remember that story that we had, was it last week or the week before, about the python in the lake that would get upset if people didn't pay the proper respect. I'm not sure if this is the same story. It would be interesting to find out. Anyway, so Shufu says, fortunately, a sage, a monk of formidable Dharma powers, came to the rescue. Grasping his tin staff, the monk stood on the shore and called out loudly to the venomous dragon. Hearing his voice, the dragon flew into a rage and displayed its powers. It appeared in the body of a giant python, tens of thousands of feet long. Aided by the power of Vajra Samadhi, the Dharma master was not daunted in the least. Employing the dharmas of hooking and subduing, he battled with the dragon for 3 days and nights and finally subdued it. After its evil powers were defeated, the venomous dragon had no choice but to surrender. Oh, can you all hear me? Can someone respond? Testing, testing.
Very clear, very clear.
Very clear? Oh, okay, all right.
Yes, we can
Because
hear you.
okay, good. Because I got a message in the chat box saying someone can't hear me. All right. Thank you for responding. Miss Yap, I hope you can hear me now. All right. So let me see, where will we? Okay, so this monk then spoke the Dharma to the dragon. He says everything is characterized by suffering, emptiness, impermanence, and lack of self. If you look this up, these are called the 3 marks of existence. It says only karma follows us. So only the things that you have done, the habits that you have planted, that's the only thing that follows us, meaning life after life. So the monk urged the dragon to be compassionate and to use its powers to benefit living beings instead of harming them. Okay. After hearing the Dharma, the dragon suddenly had an awakening and attained the pure Dharma eye. The Dharma master transmitted the 3 refuges and 5 precepts to it and told it to cultivate the Dharma in a certain mountain cave and never trouble people again. Okay, I think the details in this story is slightly different from the other one, but very, very similar. So the dragon gladly did as it was told. Okay, but it's not the end of the story. Shufu says, I've known this snake for a long time. More than 20 years ago, it will come to Sising Monastery on Lantau Island in Hong Kong to listen to the sutras. So this is not Shufu's first encounter with the snake. But I think I'm just going to conjecture. Based on the way Shufu talks about the snake and saying, I've known this snake for a long time, I think this long time means like really long time, like not just thousands of years, but long, long, long time. Yeah. So Shufu says, although the snake never harmed anyone, people were scared because it was a snake. Once someone caught it in a metal can and took it to a forest several miles away to set it free. But when that person opened the can, the snake was gone. So at this point in the story, one of the nuns also shared that a few weeks ago, they actually saw the snake on the nun site at CDTB, and being like regular people, you don't want the snake around. You don't want snakes to be around people, or you don't want people to be around snakes. So they captured the snake. They put it in a bucket and they covered it, and they took it away to set it free. But when they opened the bucket, the snake was no longer there. Yeah. So same thing. This is not an ordinary snake. You can only capture the snake because the snake allows you to do that. Makes you feel more comfortable, I guess. So Shiva says, now that the Buddha Dharma has come to the West, the snake has also crossed the ocean, undaunted by the distance, and came to America to protect the Dharma. Living beings who study Buddhism should believe deeply in cause and effect. If we don't plant bad causes, we naturally won't receive a bad retribution. If we plant good causes, we will certainly receive a good retribution in the future. Shiva says the law of cause and effect is clear and it never fails. If you kill someone's father, that person will kill your father. If you kill someone's brother, that person will kill your brother in turn. You shouldn't kill people just to gain benefits. I guess he's referring to the snake wanting to kill the king. When he was an official. He says, harming others merely harms yourself in the end. The heavens cherish life and do not want living beings to harm each other. Therefore, you should not go against the law of cause and effect. As it said, once you lose your footing, you will regret it forever. Okay, so now it's time for the next story. Maybe I will, maybe before we go to the next story, I'll talk a bit about the dedication of merit part. Okay, there's a question. Is there any difference between dedication and transference? Okay. I have a question then. Is there any difference between dedication, transference, and vows? Okay. You all can think about that while I carry on with the slide. So what I have in front of on the screen is about is from a chapter called the 10 Transferences or the 10 Dedications, and it's from the Flower Adornment Sutra, the Avatamsaka Sutra, chapter 25. Okay. So Catherine, let me get through these few slides and then let's see what you think. Okay, about is there any difference between dedication or transference? So this part of the sutra is about how a bodhisattva transfers merit. Okay, so we'll look at it from a bodhisattva point of view. And as we are going through this, I find it helpful like to think of someone like Guanyin Bodhisattva because it makes it more real. Or you can put yourself in that position and see how you compare. So the sutra goes like this. I'm going to put my palms together. It says, Bodhisattvas practice transcendent giving, purify transcendent discipline, or meaning preceptive behavior, cultivate transcendent forbearance or patience, arouse transcendent energy or vigor, enter transcendent meditation, abide in transcendent wisdom, great compassion, great kindness, great joy, and great equanimity. Okay, so these are the practices of the Bodhisattva. Okay, all right. Then the next slide is cultivating boundless roots of goodness, such as this. That means they're planting wholesome karmic seeds. They form this thought. May these roots of goodness universally benefit all sentient beings, causing them to be purified to reach the ultimate and to forever leave the innumerable pains and afflictions of the realms of hells, ghosts, and animals, and so on. All right. Now, from here, we can see that as the bodhisattvas, or say like us, when we do our practice, okay, what goes on through our minds? For the bodhisattva, as they are going about their practice, which is within every thought, speech, and action that they perform. Let me see. Okay, sorry, I'm just hearing some sound in my room. I was wondering where it came from. As they're going that, this goes on through their minds. It says, may these roots of goodness universally benefit all sentient beings, causing them to be purified to reach the ultimate. So as they are going about the daily practice, which, you know, which is every moment of their thoughts, speech, and action, they are thinking about who they are doing it for, which is for living beings. So in other words, you can look at transference. Okay, we are not even in the transference yet, but as they're doing the practice, they're very clear why they're doing it. Okay, they're doing it on behalf of living beings. Okay, so I want to introduce that as the first component of transference. Okay, let's go on. Hey, where is my slide? Not moving. Okay. So when bodhisattvas plant these roots of goodness, they dedicate their own roots of goodness thus. I should be a hostel for all beings, to let them escape from all painful things. I should be a refuge for all beings, to free them from all fears. I should be a goal for all beings, to cause them to reach universal knowledge, or the wisdom of the Buddhas. I should make a resting place for all beings, to enable them to find a place of peace and security. You can take this to either mean an actual physical place, which is on the low end, maybe a hut or a shelter. Extreme end, the pure land of a Buddha. Okay, or it can be figuratively speaking, meaning if say you are like a lawyer and you provide free services to people who cannot afford it, and it gives them peace and security that they are being looked after, something like that. Okay, so Bodhisattvas declare all foundations of goodness in this way to equally benefit all beings and ultimately cause them all to attain liberation. So if you look at this, the Bodhisattva, or maybe let's look at the concept of transference for a Bodhisattva. The reason why they practice is very, very clear, is to save all living beings. That means when they are doing anything, they know why they're doing it. They know who they're doing it for. They have their, the reason exists. Okay. Usually when you come to a Mahayana temple or DRBA temple, we do the practice, and then towards the end we have dedication of merit, and then we start to think about, who I want to share, I want to dedicate merit with, and who can I transfer it to? There are people suffering here, I want to transfer it to them, or my sister is sick and I hope she gets better, that kind of thing. It seems as if it's more of an afterthought than but after you do it, then only you think about that person. But as we can see from the Bodhisattva's perspective, it's not like that at all. So how do we understand that? We do that all the time, actually. We do Bodhisattva practice. We practice transference in the way of Bodhisattvas all the time, but because it comes naturally to us, we don't realize that we do it. Okay, so when do we do it? Okay, say I use the example of falling in love, because Shufu says that if people can practice the Dharma as how when young couples fall in love and the things they do for each other, then they say everyone can become Buddhas very, very quickly, because their dedication and their vigor will be, the best they can ever do. So if say you are someone looking to impress your partner, and say you want to cook them a meal, okay, if falling in love doesn't work for you, think about someone you care about, your grandparents or your parents, or you want to make an offering to the Buddha, some special occasion. And when you think about what you want to cook, you already have that person in mind. Then when you go and shop for the ingredients that you need, you also have that person in mind. You will choose the best fruits to put on the altar, for example. You will not cook something the other person dislikes or has an allergy to. As you are cooking, you take extra care. And why you take extra care? Because you have that person in mind. And, at every step of the way, you are very, very clear about your intentions, about who you want to benefit, and why. So that's one way to understand proper transference and dedication. Then you realize that at the end, after it's done, you don't really have to dedicate the merit anymore, because you've been dedicating it all the time. You realize that, towards the end, it's just a formality, it's just a reminder. And why formally you dedicate at the end? Because it makes sense. But in reality, transference of merit, dedication of merit, if you're really sincere and it's very natural, it happens from the beginning. It's the beginning that propels you to, it's your intention that propels you to be able to go through all that in the first place. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so when you look at that, then dedication or transference or sharing of merit, even vows, it is all the same. Then you can play around with the words. You can say, vows. Okay, vows are my end goal, and vows will shape my present intentions and focus my present intent and practice. And vows just remind me of what I'm trying to achieve in the present, and taking it step by step, who I'm doing it for. It could be yourself, because you realize that To be able to save living beings, you need to save yourself first, or at least to reach a certain point where you're no longer confused. But you don't lose sight of why you're doing that, which is because of living beings. Okay? So that should be what transference is. All right? Before you do it, you're already very clear about who you're doing it for. One way to understand that again is like when you take precepts for the deceased. Some of you are familiar with that. It's a special ceremony that we don't do very often, where you you are a stand-in for someone that you really care about that's no longer alive, so that they can take the Bodhisattva, the 10 major Bodhisattva precepts, if I'm not wrong, or the 6 major, so that they can take the precepts. And if they are in a place where they are undergoing suffering and affliction, then it really helps them out. So for that kind of ceremony, your preparation starts a long way before. It might start now when you don't know if there's a ceremony going on, but you want to participate. Why? Because you have that person in mind. Say, I need to help this person. I don't know where the person is. I want to try my best to make sure the person, I can repay my kindness and gratitude to the to that person. So you start looking for a ceremony, and when you find out, oh, maybe DRBA is going to hold it in 2 years' time or 1 year's time, you find out how you can book your place, because you know that it's so popular. If you're too slow, you lose your chance. So your preparation starts a long time before that, and when the time comes, you've already registered. You're always thinking about that person. And then when the time comes, you're making your travel arrangements to get to the monastery that holds the ceremony. You're very clear about who you never lose sight of why you're doing it. And throughout the ceremony, also because of the instructions, you are meant to hold an image of the person in your mind. It becomes very clear. There's no doubt as to why you're doing it. You don't go through the whole thing and then later think about, oh, who was I supposed to hold precepts for the deceased for? Oh, okay, maybe for my grandmother or for my grandfather. You don't do that, right? So that's one way of understanding transference from the Bodhisattva's point of view. They're very clear. It shapes their practices. It helps them focus on why they're doing it. All right. Okay. So Ruchang says, you think you had an experience or transference and dedication of merit. You want to share that, or you want to type it in?
I can share.
Okay.
Okay. This experience happened before I was even real Buddhist. I entered Buddhism at all. I think Fashi might know, in Asia, we are known for the month of July. Like we call it the month of ghosts. And we usually burn paper and make offering for the hungry ghosts, popular culture. And then one day, I just suddenly look at the calendar and it says July. It was like the month of ghosts, what we called. So I knew they were hungry ghosts and they suffer a lot. At that point, I learned a little bit about Buddhism, like the actual, like real Buddhism. So I thought, and I felt bad for them. My understanding about hungry ghosts, they have nothing to do with good eating and stuff. So I thought I'm gonna try not to eat less meat, and give them my merit dedication, so to help them. And I started with that, and I was going to do that the whole month of July, because we had the tradition in Vietnam to observe vegetarian in July also. So I was doing that, and then I started with that very small, and then I end up with going to temple, participating in ceremony, and then we're doing sutra, maybe helping other people, and I was doing all those things for the whole month of July. And in the process, I went through a lot of things. But then when I finally finished it, the last day of the ceremony, that was a change that happened to me. and my whole person just felt light. And it was right after that that I really started to cultivate and to really understand Buddhism and to really practice Buddhism. So it was funny because I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't know anything about Buddhism at that point. All I had was a popular cultural belief. It was later on that now I understand that what happened was a case of transference and dedication, because it was dedicated to that purpose from the very beginning. And my understanding is every single merit that I created at that point, every day, everything I do was automatically transferred to those hungry ghosts until the end of that 1 month. But I'm not sure if I'm right. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's my story.
I think thanks, Ruchang, for sharing that. I think that's an excellent way of excellent example, actual example of Bodhisattva, the result of Bodhisattva practices. Because what you did has no difference from what I just showed you about. I'll just go back to the slides. Okay, what are the slides? It says Bodhisattvas practice transcendent giving, purify transcendent discipline, cultivate transcendent forbearance, abide in transcendent wisdom, great compassion, great kindness, great joy, great equanimity. All right, and then what they do is they are very aware of why they're doing it. May these roots of goodness benefit all sentient beings. So what you did is a mirror of what we just read from the Avatamsaka Sutra. And because of the way you frame it for yourself, and that your natural, how would I say, compassion to wanting to help living beings who you knew were suffering, and you were able to do it in a way that I guess felt joyous. The way you describe it, because you started to do more and more and more, and how you say, probably the more you did, the happier you felt. I don't know. That's what I get from what you described. So the light that you felt at the end, that's just Bodhisattva practices. That's just the result of acting like a Bodhisattva. Why do you think Bodhisattvas do the things that they do? Why does Guanyin does the things that she does? Guanyin can be Chichai precisely because she cares about everyone else more than she cares about herself, or she puts everyone's importance as being more important. Yeah. All right. And then the last slide was doing this. So you were trying your best in your capacity at the time to be able to put all the Bodhisattva practices in practice. All right. Anyone else? Any questions? No? Everyone's so quiet today.
Dharma Master, I would like to just add a little bit. At that point, I didn't know anything about Buddhism, and frankly, I didn't even believe there were ghosts or anything. I really didn't have that kind of understanding yet. If you said the more I did it was the happier I was, I really don't know if that's the case. I really don't know half the concept of happiness at that point. It was just something you do and you just keep doing it, and then it was a lot of suffering. But then I mean, no, because I went through a lot. I would feel heavy and I feel like I would crave for certain things. I go to temple and I would be screaming crying, tearing, all kinds of things. And then I feel like it was something else that wanted those food. That's not even me. But I really didn't. I was not able to tell myself that ghosts exist, karma exists, or anything. It was just all come from what I a little thought about the hungry ghosts and the culture we had in Vietnam, which is in Southeast Asia. The month of July, we make offering to those hungry ghosts. That's all I had at that point. And it's just something you just continually doing it and you suffer through it, but you don't really feel bad. It's suffering, like I would cry and things like that. But I work really hard really, really hard somehow. It just, there was a driving force, and it went snowball, and it was getting a lot more. And at some point I was at a temple doing like mengsa. They did the like a long Dharma assembly. In the end they do like yanko, like to feed the hungry ghosts. I was having headache. I suffered so much and I was craving for food, and I talked to them. I said, if you want me to continue to stay here and for you to get the merit, I better not get a headache and be able to continue. And then pretty soon my headache disappeared.
Ah, okay.
So
So it
I like,
wasn't easy.
huh?
Yes.
So I was like, okay, they know what's good. They want the merit. But I still didn't. That was what happened. No, not really happiness, not really suffering. You just like keep doing and keep going until the end, and that was it. A lot of things happen in the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is what bodhisattvas have to go through. If it was so easy, everyone will become Buddhas.
It's not
Okay.
easy because
Yeah.
I cannot duplicate that experience myself for a second time. It's not possible.
Okay. Well, the fact that you were able to do it at all is very impressive. Yeah. Okay. So anyone else? Okay. If not, it's time, which means we don't have time for the second story, but it's okay. Maybe in the future I'll find another time. So what we'll do next week is we'll talk about the realm of humans. Okay, we as humans, you should probably know all about being humans, but I think I might have a few surprises for you. Okay, so let's transfer merit. Okay, where's my slide? Okay, let me end this slideshow. Oh, look at that on the screen. That's not a snake or a dragon. I think that's a some kind of worm or something. Okay. Okay, dedication of merit. Oh, let me change my sound settings. Just hold on a moment so we can hear the bell. Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone. We'll see you next week. Ame Tofo.